Hello, I'm Jaap Flikweert, Flood and Coastal Management Advisor at Royal Haskoning DHV in the UK, and I'll be presenting about the Bacton to Walcott Sandscaping scheme that was implemented last year in August in Norfolk in England. I will start by transporting you to the North Norfolk coast to provide an overview of the project. The scheme was delivered by North Norfolk District Council on behalf of project partners, including the Bacton Gas Terminal, without who the scheme would not have happened. It's an innovative project as it's the first of its kind outside of the Netherlands. Bacton Gas Terminal supplies up to 1/3 of the UK gas demand and will need to continue to do so whilst we as a nation transition to greener forms of energy. It shares the coast with the vulnerable coastal communities of Bacton and Walcott. The North Norfolk coast is susceptible to coastal erosion. The beaches at Bacton and Walcott have eroded. During storm events, this has led to significant damage to sea defences, homes and communities. The scheme was designed by Royal Haskoning DHV and took learning from the world-leading Dutch Zandmotor. We used detailed modelling, ongoing environmental assessment and early contractor engagement to develop and refine the designs. During the spring and summer 2019, Team Van Oort delivered the construction of the scheme, working 24 hours a day. Sand was collected from licensed borough areas at nearby Great Yarmouth, and in just 6 weeks, 1.8 million cubic meters of sand were deposited. At times, over 200 meters of new beach were created each day. The construction of the scheme drew significant crowds of people, all of which was carefully managed, enabling unprecedented public viewing whilst maintaining 100% health and safety record. The sandscaping scheme was designed to work with nature and natural processes. It seeks to turn the clock back by raising beaches and creating a source of sand for the coast. This sand will feed the beaches of Bacton and Walcott and other communities further afield. The scheme has delivered an innovative solution for an immediate need, whilst also providing time to develop longer-term, sustainable and climate-resilient approaches to adapt the local community and national infrastructure. So I will now go on and give you some further background on some of the key aspects of the scheme. So first of all, what is sandscaping? So very much inspired by the Zandmotor that was built in the Netherlands in 2011 as an experiment for a different future-proof coastal management approach. So it's mega nourishment. It aims to protect the coast, but also create space for amenity and for habitats. And it's all about building with nature. And those are also the key features how we define sandscaping. So it's soft, it's about natural processes, it's about large scale, and it's about multi-benefit. So very much a Dutch scheme that works in the very special Dutch setting where coastal management is very important and high profile and inspirational in terms of its scale and approach and ambition. But could something like this also work outside the Netherlands? And clearly a very different setting like the UK, you can't just copy and paste. So that's what we set out to do in 2011 when we initiated the Sandscaping initiative. So how could this work in the UK setting? So we raised awareness, we spoke with lots of people, and we also looked around the coast where this idea could work. And our conclusion was, well, it could work, but it will only work in the right place where it is possible and needed, and if it's designed well. And one of those places was the North Norfolk coast at Bacton. And so this is just to reiterate the challenge that we had in this area. So we have the gas terminal, very important critical infrastructure. We have villages, 2 villages with local communities, but also with caravan parks and recreation. And all of this on an eroding and a complex coast. So anything you do in one place will influence the neighboring areas. If you protect there, you will increase the erosion elsewhere. And that was the situation here. So the terminal was allowed to protect itself from erosion, but only with measures that wouldn't make the situation worse for the villages. For the villages, well, they had a seawall from the 1960s getting to the end of its life, and it was clear that there was no affordable or sustainable way to replace that seawall once it would fail. And so the communities had the challenge of having to roll back, but there is not really a process or a funding stream to allow them to do that. So an unsolvable problem, and that's the starting point. So no solution to halt the line, but also no solution for those communities to help them roll back. So how did we get from this difficult situation to this solution? Well, first, as part of the Sandscaping initiative, we had identified that it could work in this location. And then after the December 2013 storm, the gas terminal approached us to develop a solution for them that would give them robust protection, but will also fit in that coastal management context. And we concluded that it was possible, but only with a sandy solution. So once that was clear, the next question was, so if you can design this for the terminal, could you not also design a scheme that could provide benefits for both the terminal and the villages? And that's what happened. And that's what led to the scheme that was built last year. So there was no solution. Sandscaping created a solution and made it possible. So why is it sustainable when other solutions aren't? Well, this is a sandy coast, and this is about bringing sand to the coast. So you're feeding it instead of starving it. How has it become affordable when there was no affordable solution? Well, because of the combination of the two schemes is one thing, but also the large scale makes it more cost effective, and the natural processes help move the sand, which also saves costs. Something about the design process. So the clients really gave us the opportunity, the chance to innovate. So they allowed us to go through various iterations and try things out in terms of methods and solutions. And throughout all that, these 3 tracks of analysis, so that's modeling and so 2D and 1D modeling and cross-shore modeling, extensive contractor engagement, because we needed to really understand what was possible and what was cost sensitive, and also the environmental side, social and environmental side that ran throughout the project, not just as a post-project assessment, but as a true contributor to the process. So we started with the Zandmotor as inspiration. Our first designs looked a bit like that, but as we were refining the designs, it became leaner, and in the end also covered the whole of the coastline, including the villages. So this happens to be the current Google Maps picture when you Google Bacton. So the dredging vessel happens to be on the picture, and you can see the work in progress probably in early August. So yeah, 1.8 million cubic meters of sediment. That's a lot of sand. Provides the terminal with a very robust protection level and a renourishment interval that we estimate at 15 to 20 years. For the villages, they get higher beaches. That also slows down the erosion. And it creates time for adaptation for society, but also the community themselves to find ways to roll back. And in the meantime, have a nice beach. And yeah, that volume of 1.8 million cubic meters, that's enough to fill a very large football stadium. The scheme is very much characterized by collaboration in many ways between partners, between the Netherlands and the UK, but also the private-public partnership between the terminal companies and the local authority. So they found really good ways of working together, of creating a scheme that meets both sets of objectives in their own way, but also find ways for each partner to use their own strengths. And that was truly a success story. And it's also reflected in the range of funding sources. So directly from the partners, but also from government, natural flood management funding, and also the local communities and the businesses actually contributed themselves directly. So how is it behaving? Well, as you all know, beaches are mobile, so we are seeing what we would expect to see after the first year, that sand, in the first few storms, sand moves from the upper beach to the lower beach, and we're seeing the typical winter and summer cycle as well. But in addition to that, those dynamic cycles, we're also expecting a gradual ongoing erosion. So that's what the modeling tells us and what experience tells us. So there will be some offshore loss, there will also be some longshore spreading, and our 1D and 2D modeling that we carried out in design suggests that the functional life would be 15 to 20 years. So that's the point when there will be a trigger reached that would then lead to the next intervention. There's a lot of monitoring and review going on. So there's a regular monitoring by the Environment Agency, locally enhanced to pick out some specific bits of the scheme. But in addition, we are also doing some work supported by the Dutch Partners for Water program and also by the clients. And what we're doing is we're doing some innovative additional monitoring, but also developing a digital twin. So the monitoring is with our partners Shore from the Netherlands. So they are taking out their jet skis and drones, to create an integrated data set of topography and bathymetry. And that data set feeds into the digital twin that we are developing. So that's a web-based application that will always give the client, the beach manager, the latest state of the beach. But it also has functionality to update the design predictions that we did. So it takes the monitoring, it recalibrates the modeling, and it then tells us, so when do we now expect that trigger for intervention to be reached? And yeah, I'm happy to say that the first indications after about a year are that the scheme is working as predicted. So finally, the outcomes. So this is an authentic photo of a community meeting, and you can see that the people there really got it. They understand that this was their only chance, and they wanted us to get on with it. So the direct outcomes: better protection against erosion and flooding of the infrastructure and communities, time for adaptation. But in addition, there's a whole range of other benefits as we hoped to achieve. So this is a picture from some research by the University of East Anglia. And you can see various categories there. So there's the local economy. So there's investment in hotels, there's investment in new parking spaces, which just shows that it's having an impact. There's relationships with the community, but also between the partners. There's the learning, and there's lots of research going on all kinds of fields, from governance to dune growth to fisheries to coastal processes. And we're using that to inform our thinking about other places where it could work. And finally, there's the community benefits. So people used to lie awake when there was a storm coming, and now they no longer do. So in that sense, the scheme has brought hope for the future.